Okay.
Load. Okay, three-way simping session is online
Yes,
and live.
love it.
Yay!
We can
Hey everyone.
just hang out and just like have a full on love fest for each other.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it's going to be so much easier because we're all together. Because my last stream was just a wee bit awkward because it was just me
Oh, it's so
talking
great
to
though,
people.
man. But it was
But I
so
love your
great.
streams. I think you have such a talent to just like talk and not get tired of like talking and going on and
Right?
on. Like after an hour, I'm like, okay, now my energy is done and I really need to be done with
Yeah.
this.
No, I'm with you, man. There are some days that I'm just like, man, I'm real tired of the sound of my own voice.
it, it's the help desk experience, man. So my first foray into IT work was working help desk for a great total of like 5.5 years. So I've got used to hearing my own voice and me talking to people for like 8 hours on end. Oh,
Oh,
hi
there's a bunch of cool
everyone!
people here already. Hi, everyone.
Yay!
Wait, why can I not see anyone in the chat yet?
Oh, it's under comments. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah.
True.
And just give it a bit because I've noticed it's a bit delayed, like a couple minutes delay from when
I
we
see everyone.
Oh,
Meg,
man,
I'm so
Yes.
happy
all
you're
these like
here.
cool
Isa.
people.
Hi
Hello, the other people
everyone.
as well.
Oh my god, my heart is like swelling already.
I know, right? I love it.
This is so great.
It's so cool to hang out with everyone. You know how I always say that
Really?
my YouTube channel is about like hanging out with people virtually when I can't hang out with them in real life. And now that we can do these live streams and have the people in the chat, I almost feel like this is the best of all worlds.
Oh,
A hundred
totally.
percent.
Totally.
And I think that might be one of the good things that came out of this whole situation, the world
Yeah.
being on fire. Lives started becoming much more mainstream,
Yeah.
trickling down from the larger channels to us smaller gals. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the best things because it's really
Yeah.
a good way to foster friendships within ourselves and with the people that are kind enough to watch us and give us the time of
Yeah,
day.
absolutely. So thank you everybody, first of all, for giving us that time of day. But no, you're totally, excuse me, I think you're totally right. Like it's not just excuse me, lives in general, but communications platforms like as a whole, like they've really done a lot of work on like reducing latency for audio communications, for video communications. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do close to real time that you never
Yeah.
really were able to do before remotely and digitally. Like
Mhm.
I have jam sessions, dude, like with a friend. like
Seriously?
we like we sing and play instruments together.
That's so
Like
That's
awesome.
lovely. That's lovely.
it's like who would have thought that audio latency would ever be low enough for something like that to happen? It's insane. It's
That's
so cool.
incredible.
So
That
cool.
really is incredible. That's
Yeah,
so cool.
it's a lot of fun. It's
I'm
and I
already
mean
like
cards on the table. It took us like 2 weeks to figure out, but
But I'm
so
so grateful that like StreamYard exists because they're like, oh yeah, the free version has like so many limitations. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I can hang out with a bunch of people for
Yeah.
free with like
yeah,
live and then save it on my YouTube channel with the chat. Are you serious? That's incredible to me.
it is
I
super
think
cool.
maybe for professional streamers, that's where
Yeah,
the frustration might come in. But
yeah.
Mhm.
for us just doing lives
Just
for the sake of it and not as a
just
job, I
hanging
think it's
out,
just perfect. Yeah.
just hanging out.
I don't need anything more than that, dude. I don't need to have my logo. I don't need to hang out
Mhm.
with 20 people. I'm just like casually hanging out with people. And because I don't want to
Exactly.
like
Yeah,
stream by myself, because that would be like
yeah.
awkward on the power 100.
Yeah, I'll run
And I
out of
want to
things to
do it
say
with
real
people.
fast.
This is awesome.
This is so great. This is so great.
And
So
I'm so
this
happy. Sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead, please.
I just wanted to simp some more and say that I'm so happy that we managed to have this three-way live because I'm like your biggest fan, like the both of us.
I was
Forever a
just gonna
simp
say
for
that.
you two.
I was just
There
gonna say
will be so
how.
much fangirling.
Oh my god, it's gonna be great. So if anyone is gonna get like real sick of us, just like completely just fangirling over each other, like now is probably a good time to leave because this
Yeah.
is what the next 2 hours are gonna be. I think.
Did you guys realize that we're in 3 different time zones?
Yeah.
What time is it where you guys are?
5.
It's 4 4 p.m. Mia is 5 p.m.
It's 10
And for
a.m.
you?
ish. It's 10 past 10 in the morning here.
It's
Yeah. So
incredible.
my second cup of coffee.
I'm already on my cola.
Oh, good point. Let me just.
Amazing.
Grab a drink.
Yeah.
I
Make
forgot
that
to get
slave
my
work.
drink.
Just summon one from your boyfriend. That's kind of amazing.
My son was extremely upset because I
Merci.
took away the cola.
Shame on you.
He was having the best time ever, sitting on the couch sipping cola, and then all of a sudden, mom disappeared and the cola disappeared, and I can tell
Oh
you
no!
he did not like
Oh
that.
no.
Oh,
Oh,
dude,
where
Naomi
Naomi?
came from the U.S. West Coast. That's crazy.
That's
Same
Yo,
so
here.
early. Thank
yeah,
you for
thank you for being here.
joining.
You know, I was actually going to be up if I wasn't doing this. There's a friend of mine that's actually running a tabletop game for the UK Games Convention, which
Nice.
starts at 5 a.m. his time, which because he's on the US West Coast as well. So he's like, oh, you should join. I'm like, like, all right, listen, I will be there because I'm a morning person and because I like you a lot. But you should know that this is not standard operating procedure for me.
No, this is too hardcore. I don't think I
Yeah.
could do 5 a.m. I'm sorry. I appreciate sleep more than anything else.
Sure. See,
my
I'm a morning person, so I don't mind waking up early.
no, my 5 a.m. shifts were horrible for me. Like you had to be at work online and active at 5:30 to provide
Jeez.
support. And that week where I was 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m., I just zombie mode the whole day.
I get that. What
That's
time were you able to
insane.
wrap up though? Like when you started at 5:30?
Technically 2:30, but we were clever and we took lunch at 1:30 and we left early. And the guys on the second shift would just log us out.
That's dope, man. That's awesome.
But-
See, that's the good part with starting that early is that you have most
Yeah.
of the day to yourself.
But like,
Yeah,
did
but
you
you
go
spend it
home and
sleeping.
then sleep after that?
Yeah. I mostly spent the rest of the day sleeping because it fucked up
Okay.
my sleeping schedule big time.
Yeah.
But as a
Yeah.
segue, I chose the topic for today's live, or actually suggested it to you guys, because I do get quite often questions about my job when I do mention that I work in IT, and we all know Mariam is a badass scientist,
Yeah,
and you
obviously.
are a corporate queen. So
I mean, that's very generous.
Oh, I love how you introduce us.
Yeah, I know, Mia. You could just be like our hype man. You can be my hype man for like every.
This might get to my head, dude. You should be
Like-
careful.
Like, imagine getting into a meeting and me just opening the door for you, like, and now our corporate queen will present her PowerPoint presentation for the quarterly
All right,
results.
listen, I'm gonna record this and use it in my next performance review if you don't mind.
It'd be like,
Please.
mix on silent and shut the fuck up. She's talking.
Beware, you're in the presence of greatness.
Oh my
Exactly.
god, you're all just entirely too generous. I'm basically 2 steps above a wage slave. So I'm not
Aren't
sure
we
that-
all?
Aren't we
Aren't
all,
we all?
honey? Aren't we all?
But I would actually really like to talk about it because I think it's a great topic because I feel like all of us are, and I think that's the title of the live, is that we all either work in STEM fields or adjacent to STEM fields, which is hence the title. So thank you for that. But like, you guys are much more traditionally sort of in STEM. I am STEM adjacent in that I'm a sales professional and I have like multi-industry experience and that kind of thing. And like right now I'm working in energy and I have been for the better part of the last decade or so. And I'm probably going to stay in energy for at least the foreseeable future, for at least the next. I don't see myself leaving this industry. It's too compelling to me for too many reasons. And but I am more traditionally like business development, enterprise sales, that kind of thing. So my adjacency to STEM comes from my internal workings more than the external stuff, because the external stuff, like I work with people who design energy programs, I work with people who I mean, design energy programs, design energy policy, like that. Those are the people I work with. So they're not traditionally STEM, but there are some heavy STEM and technical elements to the work that they do. And the people that I work with internally are all sort of really technical folks. And so it's really important to me to be able to work in that space without actually being in that space. Whereas you guys are more firmly entrenched in that industry. Like you do STEM work yourselves. Is that fair to say?
Yes, but
I think so.
did you both stumble upon your current, working path, career path, or was it planned from the very beginning? This is what I want to do. This is the path that I want to have. Oh, hi, Melissa.
Melissa, it's amazing that
Hello.
you're here.
Oh my god, 12:14. Yo, thank you for being here.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Yes.
People are so incredibly sweet. I'm super blown
Yes.
away.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, Megan made a comment about that COVID's not been good for hospitality in terms of I used
Yeah.
to work in hospitality, so I totally like I can see that is challenging, I'm sure. Anyway, sorry, back
but to go back to your question, I absolutely did not stumble upon my career. I knew that I wanted to be a biomedical scientist since I was 14 or 15, and I can tell you, I think I was in 8th or 9th grade, and we had our first lessons in genetics and like Mendel and the peas,
Oh yes.
Yep.
I remember that.
Does anyone remember that?
Yes,
totally
yes,
remember
I do.
And then that like segued into like the genetics of especially monogenic diseases like Tay-Sachs and like the classic monogenic diseases where you have like one gene and you have the disease. And my mind was so blown that I thought, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. So then I went home and I told my parents, who are an architect and an engineer, and they were like, okay, if that's what you want to do, we're not going to stand in your way. But just so you know, neither of us can really help you out here. So you're on your own. You have our full mental support, but we can't really help you in any other way.
Yeah.
So I worked actually really hard to get to where I am.
That's awesome, dude. That's
really awesome.
Great. So it must feel really fulfilling to be doing what you're doing now then, because you've taken really thoughtful steps to get here.
Yes and no. Yes, because I love my job, and if it wasn't for the way academia is set up in the 21st century, it's so 21st century academia still operates under the same conditions that it did in like the 60s, and that doesn't work anymore. It cannot accommodate everyone who's highly educated and wants to enter academia, so it's a very fucked up environment in a way. But like the essence of the job, the actual research, the contribution that you can make to advancing medicine and biology, in my case because I'm a biomedical scientist, that is to me like I go to work every day and I'm doing my hobby as a job. I love it.
That's awesome, man.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's so cool.
But then you have to deal with a lot of uncertainty with your job, with your future. Like I am almost 38 years old, and every year when my temporary contract ends, I question my choices in life, and I have a small crisis, thinking, what did I get myself into?
Yeah. So I mean, I'd love to understand a little bit more when you say like academia hasn't really changed since the 60s. Like, do you mean from an accessibility perspective? Like people aren't able to get the education that is required for further pursuit? Or is it that once they get the education, they're not able to use it as effectively as they should be able to?
It is exactly the other way around. So in the 60s, let's say, much less people got higher education, and even less people got into academia, like at the level of like a PhD professor, that kind of thing. However, nowadays, people have much easier access to education, or at least in Europe, I would say people have much easier access to higher education. So a lot of people just kind of think after they're done with their master's, sure, I can do a PhD.
Sure.
Which leads to many people who have the degree of a PhD, but they have no place to execute that job because academia remains a publicly financed institution. So you're dependent on grants, on the university or whatever other funding agency that focuses around your research topic. and
Right.
it cannot accommodate all of us. So for instance, once upon a time, once you got your PhD, you basically became a professor after that. Now, because they cannot accommodate everyone to be a professor, like it's like this pyramid where you start with a lot of people at the bottom, like at the master's and PhD level, and then 1 to 5% is actually going to make it to the top echelons at the
Wow.
like professor level. And there is this like in between group to which I belong now, which is called a postdoc, which is basically someone who is highly trained to become a scientist, but cannot really be like a staff scientist because they just don't have the financial means to accommodate everyone. So
Right.
postdocs especially are highly skilled, highly educated, pretty much the people in the lab who have the know-how, and they are the most like frequently replaced people. So especially in the Netherlands, academia functions incredibly inefficiently because it is more skewed towards PhDs because it's easier to get funding for PhDs and much more difficult to get funding for postdocs. So you are constantly hiring amateurs who have to reinvent the wheel because your know-how keeps leaving towards
Right.
other professions, towards other
What
institutes.
towards private sector a lot of time
Yeah,
because
yeah, that as well.
it gets paid. You get paid better. Like
Hmm.
let's call a spade a spade. Like
Yeah.
it's just you work up. I don't know if it's easier or more difficult, but certainly you are in an environment where there is your merits are lauded in theory, and you get paid more. So I think a lot of as in my space, especially in I mean in energy, and I imagine the same
Hmm.
in other scientific fields, is that you get a lot of people, especially older folks, that move from more traditional academia to either policy creation or program design or all of these different things because it at that stage in their life, in their career, they're like, all right, I think I've gone as far as I can go down this track. I need to find something else.
That's true.
So
That's what happens to a lot of people in academia nowadays. They
yeah,
just hit a roadblock with their career, and like some people make that conscious choice. Some people think, okay, I got everything I could get out of academia, and now I'm ready for the next step. But for a lot of
yeah,
people, that is not a choice that they make willingly. It's a choice
sure,
they make because they have no other option,
sure,
I
which is
think
really
one
absolutely.
of
sad.
I think one of the problems is that nowadays getting a degree and even further than a degree has become so obligatory in a
Yeah,
way. And I look at my peers who finished college, okay, they don't want to continue in academia, but they are pursuing a master's because their parents and society pushes them to. And then they're pursuing a PhD after that. And I'm like, okay, but you don't want to work in academia.
yeah. What do you?
Why?
Why?
Like,
Yeah,
and so many people my generation are doing that, and I do not understand because you end up overly qualified
yeah.
Hmm.
with lacking practical experience that can get you a job, and you end up having a PhD and no actual job. So what's the point? And unpopular opinion here, I'm all for education, but I don't think everyone needs to go to college and everyone needs the
Yes,
masters,
Yep.
everyone needs a PhD.
Yep.
But
so
it's
agree.
pushed so much that
Well,
now you need a fucking degree to even mop the floors.
yeah. No, I
But
completely agree.
isn't
Actually,
that something like, did your parents, guys, come from a generation where having an education was pretty much the top tier accomplishment you can have in life?
Yes, yes,
it was just the thing
especially.
to do. It was the thing you did. There was no other. I mean, with Indian culture specifically, I think it's I don't want to say unique because I think it's actually a thing with most Asian cultures, but like and this is where there's a lot of intersection of culture and race and education and all these things. I don't actually know how to put comments on screen, but I would love to put tiny thingies forth. Yes,
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
was thinking
Yeah,
for the perfect
thank you.
time to do it. I was
Thank you.
waiting for like a.
Thank you. So I don't know how to do it, but thank you for doing that.
You click on it if you're on mobile or on
We
PC,
need
you
to
just
go back
tap.
to this comment. We need to go back to
Yes.
this comment.
I definitely want to come back to this, but so in Indian culture, like and Asian cultures, I would say generally speaking, not getting post secondary education is really like unless you are completely financially unable, like finances should be the only reason that you don't do it. there is no other reason for someone to not do post-secondary education like after high school, like culturally speaking. And it's unfortunate, but I feel like at least the change that's happening now is that you have this um highly educated sect of like this highly educated generation of
Mm-hmm.
people that exist, and they are understanding that perhaps the road that they took was maybe not the best one because they've been educated, in the West, trademark, and like, so they get educated in like the UK and like America and Europe and everything, and then go back to India with these um more Western ideals of pursuing things like a passion, pursuing things like a dream that you have, and not just getting the degree for the sake of getting the degree, and because that's just the thing that you do. So they're raising their kids in a way to be like, listen, you can be a writer, you can be a like you can be in the arts, you can do all of these different things, and it's coming out of this really educated generation. So it's really interesting to see how that's manifesting. It's
Mm-hmm.
really, really cool. But
Honestly, I'm not sure that the Western view of you have to follow your passion is the best to have. I read a really interesting book. It was called something like So Good They Can't Ignore You, something like that. And it posited the theory that this you have to follow your passion is actually doing more harm than good,
yeah,
because you come from the idea that you have to be passionate about your work to start your work.
yeah. And
Whereas
your passion
the
needs to be monetizable, which is like a
ex
whole other thing. Like that is just
yeah,
icky,
That
no.
is a great
frankly.
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Instead, the book says that if you get good at your job, so if you specialize and you start being great at what you're doing, passion will come later. But
yeah,
putting passion first
yeah,
breeds this generation of people that are working, regular jobs, day-to-day jobs, feeling
yeah,
very dissatisfied
yeah.
because they think that they should be the chosen one, the best writer
Totally.
of their generation,
Totally.
or
Yeah.
whatever, or the best artist.
Yeah,
And it's not feasible for some people, and it's not feasible to be the best even if you do manage to get into that environment.
yeah.
And it breeds dissatisfaction when you could just be focusing on being good at what you do and getting your satisfaction from that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But
Absolutely
actually,
agree.
before we move on, I do want to go back to the question that you asked,
Yes.
which is how did you get into your field? Was it did you stumble? Because I'd love to know your answer. Did
I
you stumble?
stumbled.
You
I s-
same.
so actually I had, creative pursuits in mind. And then I got hit by the realities of trying to do said creative pursuits in Romania.
Mm.
So my mom said, go to an economically minded high school, so get an economics degree, and then you can do whatever you want. So I had that economics degree from high school, fucking hated it, whatever. I was like, okay, that's not where I'm going. And then I wanted to go to art school, and my mom was like, go to a proper college, and then when you've got a job and you want, go to an art school, but have a backup plan. Which was, in I disliked that idea, but I went with it. And I went with foreign languages, linguistics, and translation.
Nice.
And at the time, I was like, okay, I
Let
freelanced
me
as an
just say that
artist.
feels really on brand for you. Like
I
Yeah.
know, right?
I love
I
that.
was going to say that
I love
explains so much.
right.
Right? And I freelanced as an artist during that time to make ends meet, and realized that I don't enjoy doing art for other people. I like doing it for myself. So I
Right.
scratched that dream of being a professional artist, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to be a translator slash interpreter. Until I looked at the translating and interpreting market, and unless I wanted to translate all of my life dry ass medical documents or whatever else, I was not going to make a living wage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever. I wanted to do
Mm-hmm.
literary work, but literary work either pays very little, or you have to translate the same mindless, poorly written drivel that appeals to the masses, which I don't have anything against. If there's a market for it, let it be written. I just don't want to bother translating it.
For real.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And so I found myself having this degree, having these talents, nothing to do with them. And I was like, okay, what job can I get that uses my Italian so at least I don't lose it? And I stumbled upon a help desk job, so answering calls over the phone, providing tech support. And then I realized, oh, wait, I actually kind of like this. It's fun. It's like a puzzle. And I also liked the human
Nice.
element of it. I
That's awesome.
liked not only solving problems but feeling needed, feeling useful,
Yeah.
the banter
Mm-hmm.
over the phone, the customer service. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And
Yeah.
after a couple of years I moved on from that to hands-on practical work, hardware work, stuff like that. So it's not what I saw myself doing as a kid, but now it is something that I would see
Totally.
myself doing until pension age.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Those are very similar reasons to why I decided to sort of stay with sales and business development. So I liked
Mm-hmm.
that building of relationships. I liked that sort of that kind of problem solving.
Matre, what is your background, educationally speaking?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm very curious.
Communications and professional writing.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
Yeah.
that
that
explains a
it
lot
makes
too.
sense. That makes sense.
Digital communications specifically. Communications and professional writing with a specialist in digital communications.
But you can tell when someone has one of those degrees if they also have YouTube by the way that look, all of our videos, our chatty videos, like our commentary videos, they're like long form
That's true. None
essays.
of us know how to shut up, really.
And it's like the structure of it. You can kind of tell. You were like, oh, this person did something with literature or literature adjacent. By the way, they kind
Yes.
of pause it. Their theories. I love it.
No, you're so right, man. It just seeps off of you. Like there's no way to be discreet about it.
No, that
But
explains now I understand. I truly understand why the two of you are so good at doing these commentary videos. Like I can never pull off a commentary video because first of all, I'm too lazy to like write anything as a script. And second of all, I just like after like 15 minutes of rambling, I'm already like, oh, I'm so tired of talking.
yeah.
If I could write it down, that would be
Yeah.
that'd be fine
But
with
you
me.
know
But
what I love about your videos though, Miriam, and I think this probably comes from like your job and from the work that you've done. You're able to distill these really
Yes,
complex ideas into a really accessible way. Like
Mhm.
100%.
you distill these
Yeah,
big
you think so?
absolutely. It's one of the reasons I love watching you is
That's so
because you like take
cool.
these big ideas and you bullet point it for those of us that have communications degrees. No, it's great. It's really awesome. Yeah,
Speaking of
Cool.
communication, let's go back to that math
Let's go
comment
back
before
to the
we lose
comments.
track
Yes.
of it.
yeah.
Because
Actually, I
it's
read a
important.
study recently, and it was disappointing but not surprising, as all these studies tend to be. Which is that women specifically, not feminine men, but feminine presenting women,
Mhm.
were viewed as less scientific and like less technical if they presented
Yeah.
in traditionally feminine ways. And they
Mhm.
did a study by showing like 80 different images to men and women in scientific and engineering fields. I'm forgetting exactly who did the study, but I can find it. I can list it. But they showed 80 images of women in varying states of femininity, and they sort of had this sort of gradation scale of
Mhm.
what was considered sort of traditionally presenting feminine.
Mhm.
And having showed them to men and women, the general consensus was that the more feminine presenting women were often misconstrued as being either something to do with office management, human resources, or early childhood education. So kindergarten teachers.
Mhm.
And so so it's like these are all engineers, these are like IT professionals, these are all and not to say that there's no merit in early childhood education or admin work or office management or whatever else, but this concept of like a smart woman or a technical woman needs to look a certain way is
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
so problematic, and it just leaves such a bad taste in my mouth. Like, I just hate it so much.
Can I ask you a question? Did that study mention whether the people who were assessing this were men or women or both?
It was men and women. Men and
Okay,
women.
so both.
Both.
So see, that is the most disturbing part. That it's not
Yes.
just men;
Yes.
it's us as well. We
Yes.
discriminate against
Because
each
we
other
have
too.
this internalized bullshit that we need to unlearn as women.
100%.
Yes,
It's
but
terrible.
I've been
Oh my
thinking
god,
about
there's
this
so many
so
amazing
much.
comments happening right now.
I know, right?
So the thing is that, like, the time when women were still considered to, like, even if they got a higher education, it was still like, oh, you go entertain yourself for a little bit before you marry a man and, you know, start having
Totally.
children, and then you become,
Yeah.
you know, a housewife.
Sure.
And we're talking about that kind of mentality, which was so deeply seated into not just men but women.
Yeah.
Only not that long ago. It was like, what,
Yes.
the 60s, the 70s?
Yeah, like
Not
50
even
years
still
ago.
going,
Yeah,
still
absolutely.
still going
Still
80s,
going.
90s,
Yeah.
early 2000s,
Yeah.
depending. I
Yeah.
mean, it is 2020, and some people in Romania, the further you go away from the big urban city centers, they still have that view
Well, that's
of
how it is in Canada too. That's how it is in a lot of places in the US. The further you
Everywhere.
go from an urban center, the more traditional the values become.
Yeah.
And I say
100%.
traditional like with big ass air quotes because I don't think I hesitate to say I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if it's traditional, I don't know if it's conservative. I don't know the right word to describe it, but I think everyone knows what I mean.
Yes.
It's this heteronormative bullshit of traditional gender roles. And anyway.
But
But
the most important thing is that we should not convince men that we can do more. We have to convince ourselves. And
100%.
Yep.
Like,
we
I've
need
got
to
a
teach our
coworker.
children, that especially like our daughters, that they are more than just housewives. They can be more than that if they wanted to. Like, they can be
Totally.
anything they wanted to.
And we also need to unlearn a bit of the self-sabotaging, ultra-giving, specifically feminine behaviors. Not to say that specific feminine behaviors are inherently negative, but for example, being too nurturing, too giving, too dedicated in a corporate setting makes people take advantage of you. I've got a coworker. I love her. She's like my work wife. I will kick people in the teeth for her, fight them in the town square. I will protect her at all costs. But she is too dedicated to the job and too patient and too kind with people. And when you are like that, people don't think, oh, you know, such and such, she's such a hard worker. No, they think such and such is a sucker. She doesn't respect her time. She doesn't respect her boundaries, and thus I can push them. So it's also a thing of being forced to take on certain, I would say, mannish, traditionally masculine behaviors and aggressiveness to not be taken advantage of in a way.
But
But
then that
regarding that,
aggressiveness is then perceived as not being a team player, being intimidating, because
Being
like
a bitch.
honestly, being a bitch. And like I'm like but yes, that's exactly it. You are the office bitch. And honestly, dude, like last
It's
year
fine. By
was
me, it's fine.
and last year was the first time, and I honestly, I consider myself, I'm really passionate about personal and professional development and coaching people and being coached and being mentored and all these things. Last year was the first time I worked with a professional coach, and she told me that, and honestly, it kind of breaks my heart that I have spent like as long as I have just kind of beating myself up for being passionate and being expressive and doing all of these things. And she was the first person in 35 years to tell me those are not inherently bad things. Those are strengths.
No.
Those
Yes.
are things that you should
100%.
leverage to, because people want to work with you for those reasons.
100%, but you also need to protect your protect yourself. Like, try to be radically compassionate and generous while also protecting leeches and energy
Yes.
suckers and people that will want to piggyback off
I'm
you.
so happy that women in their 20s are learning this so much earlier. I'm so happy because I didn't learn it till my mid 30s, man. I didn't learn it till last year. Literally 8 months ago was when like a light bulb went off in my head.
Listen, I play a very delicate corporate Game of Thrones where they both fear me and love me, as it
Love it.
should be,
Love it.
because I am radically kind, but also radically bitchy. And I will overlook idiocy. I will overlook naivete. I will help you one time, two times, three times, four times if you need it. And people know that I am open
Sure.
to come to me. But if you're being not idiot, I wouldn't say ignorant on purpose, but if you are being lazy, selfish,
Complacency. I can't
rude,
with complacency. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
not a team player, as in you don't give a shit about other people or you don't want to do your bit of the work, I will kick you in the teeth and publicly humiliate you if you try to mess with me.
Wow,
That's
I have to
awesome. Yeah.
say, I'm like so impressed that you're what, 25 and you already have that
26.
kind of
Good for you,
mentality.
man.
Okay,
Thank
yeah,
Good for
no,
you.
you.
Thank
That
you.
is amazing. And
yeah.
it took me entirely too long to learn that those were strengths. And I mean if we can be intimidating and intense, then yeah, honestly, man, that was something that um came up for me as negatives in my performance reviews in the past. And to again, to call a spade, I have had some pretty awful bosses. And you need to have good leadership. You need to have leadership that
100%.
empowers you to be the best version of yourself, and to also understand the best version of yourself is
Mhm.
not the best version of this other person on your team.
But
100%.
so one of my friends, he works in the corporate world, and he gave me, like, I always complain about my career and how, I'm so worried that tomorrow I'll wake up and I'll have to like do something else because academic life is finished for me. And he gave me this book as a joke, which was two books actually about management. And like most of the book was not very like useful for me because I don't really like work at that level. But like the first chapter of that book resonated so much with me that it was almost like one of those moments, like you said, when you have like this light bulb going on. Because when you talk about bad management, academia is just riddled with bad management.
Yeah.
I
Because
bet.
people who reach the professor level are never, I think they have courses now on management, but I don't know whether they make them actually take exams in that. And one of the things that really struck me so hard, especially as one of the biggest problems of academia, was this person was saying, the author of the book, that you need to know your employees. You need to know what their strengths and weaknesses are, and you need to make sure that they develop their strengths and don't beat them up for their weaknesses.
Yeah.
And you should not make someone start from a level of inadequacy
Yes.
and make them learn something from scratch, because the best they can hope for is reach a level of mediocrity. That is
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And in academia, you have no idea how many times you're going to go to your boss and be like, okay, so let's say in my case, I don't really know how to do complex data analysis, like huge data set analysis. I've never been trained in that. And they think that you can just figure it out overnight. And you go home and you're like, well, then I should probably figure it out overnight.
Yeah.
So then in 2 weeks, you have like your progress meeting and everyone is frustrated. You're frustrated because you feel like you're stupid and you're underachieving. Your boss feels frustrated because you're not getting the work done. Everyone is unhappy. And this problem could be solved so easily by just having this knowledge of you cannot make
The
your
right
people,
people.
yeah. You have to just exploit people's strengths and not beat them up for their
Oh,
weaknesses.
did we lose Mia?
Oh,
Mia, come back! Oh no! Oh no!
oh, she says power went out.
Oh
Fuck.
shit!
Trying to get back in. Okay.
Okay.
We need to continue without our hostess here.
Yeah.
But anyway,
All
I
right.
thought
Sweet.
this was such an epiphany for me, and I thought this book should be distributed to every like
What was the book?
PI. Oh, let me tell you. I put it in my drawer here. It's this one.
Oh, okay.
Do you have it?
Hang on just one
Can
second. Hang on just
everyone
one
hear
second.
me?
Yes,
Hey.
you're back. Yay!
Okay, I'll be right back. 1 second.
Audio. Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes, you're back online. We're very happy to have you.
I had an outage.
Fantastic. That's the same book. Yeah, that's the book I'm
Look
talking
what is
about.
on my current bedside table. I am reading that
I
right
need
now.
to get that.
This is dude, what the hell?
Yeah.
You know, a very good one that I read was Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office or something like that. I don't know if it was discussed, but it was really good. It's really
the
good.
one that I've read that is really, really good is The Fifth Discipline.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
that
good.
one too was really good.
I need to
That
make a list of like things to read, you guys.
It's basically The Fifth Discipline is about the importance of building of knowing who can be, and to your point, Mariam, about who can be sort of the most successful at doing certain jobs and putting aside processes that don't work and egos
Yes.
get in the way. So a broken process and inflated egos are the two biggest detriments to success.
100%.
Yes.
Or that's what the book posits, and I think it's a really good position to take, frankly. But yeah, anyway, Mia, welcome back.
Do you guys want to take a look at some comments, because we got so many interesting
Yes.
ones and I feel bad for not
But
addressing them.
I feel like we didn't really fully address the comment from a Tiny Thing about being discriminated in the fields of mathematics and yes. So do you guys feel like if she would want to pursue this, she would have to conceal who she is, or do you think she should not give any fucks and be who she is? Because I would be the proponent of the second.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What do you guys think?
I feel it depends on the workplace and on management. In some workplaces I didn't need to give a shit. In other workplaces I needed to build up stealthily my aesthetic. Like I first was quite a bit subdued, very natural with makeup, traditional, standard clothing, nothing too girly, until I proved myself, and then I became a peacock, and they couldn't get rid of me no matter what I did afterwards. For example, my previous boss, so I moved roles internally. Poor Maitre knows all about it because I just I ranted to her about it. Whatever.
I love it so much. I love talking to you about that. Like I
Thank
really
you.
did. Like I said,
I
very
appreciated your advice a lot.
I'm so passionate about professional development for women specifically, and I really appreciated that you talked to me about that because it meant so much.
That's amazing.
So
That's amazing.
So
I hope
my
you get to
previous
coach
boss-
and mentor a lot of women.
I
Go ahead. Sorry.
Some I do some. I actually before Corona, I did some like I did a couple of like speaking engagements for not webinars, but like I don't know. God, what is the word? Not conferences. They're smaller than conferences. They're basically like single session. Yeah,
like
workshops. Thank you. What the hell could I remember a workshop? It's been so long since I've been to one, I guess. But yeah, so I used to do like some speaking sessions for specifically around soft skills for women in STEM and adjacent to STEM. Because to the question that you asked, that Tiny Thing is asked as well about like how feminine is too feminine, or should you be like limiting that? What I've kind of learned is that it's important for you to feel good about yourself. If you feel good about and feeling good about yourself is what's going to make you do well at work,
be more productive.
Yes, and if you're second guessing your things as small honestly as your appearance, then like it's going to distract from doing the amazing things that you are capable of doing. doing. So if you feeling good about yourself is wearing a bright red lip, then wear that bright red lip. If you feeling good about yourself is wearing like a free t-shirt you got at a conference and baggy jeans, do that. But like whatever makes you feel like the best version of yourself so that you can not think about that element and instead focus on other stuff.
If I could just add like a small comment on that, I feel like the reason for, you know, being yourself, despite what everyone else thinks in like STEM fields, and especially what men and maybe more judgmental women would think, is not so much to prove everyone wrong, but to feel more powerful yourself. I feel like when I dress the way I want and I put the makeup I like and I am who I am the most confident version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. You do
I
better
just
when you feel good about yourself.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it pours out, and I don't care what people think, because I am the best version of myself. Because if I suppress who I am inconfident, I am not capable to be the best version of myself, I'm not as productive, I'm definitely not the best employee I could be. And it's such a
Absolutely.
small thing, right? Just your
Absolutely.
appearance.
Just be intentional about and that's all it is. It's being intentional about how you're presenting yourself. And if being intentional means, like I said, the free swag conference t-shirt and the baggy jeans, that's fine, babe. Like that's awesome. And but like if it means spending 20 minutes like, you know, blending all of your creams together, then like
Can I be the cynical party here?
yes,
I'm gonna be the cynical party here.
please, please.
Um, it's an act of balance. Of course,
That is
you
true.
can be
That is true.
confident in yourself, but if you're barely meeting those people, if you're barely meeting management and you don't know anything about them, you can be confident all you
Oh
want, but
yeah,
confidence will not change someone else's prejudices
yeah,
or
Mhm.
how they were raised. So it's best to at least see who you're dealing with
for
Mhm.
sure.
before going all out. And I think
For
that's true in all areas of life, not only being feminine presenting.
Mhm.
An example that I wanted to give earlier was, and I will admit my own prejudice here because it was a prejudice assumption. My former boss at the same place was a Sri Lankan man. And knowing that, South Asia is a bit more conservative in terms of, male, female gendered roles, I was like, okay, I'm going to fly low, be very natural, very plain, dressed up to my neck. And so I think a month or two while he trained me, that was how I presented until he finally was very convinced of the fact that I was a very competent woman that took
Mhm.
Yep,
no shit. And then I
yep.
started amping up the glitter and the sparkle.
Amazing.
But
I think Isa has the same comment here about
yeah,
being important to try to fit in until you can demonstrate your capabilities and then slowly
exactly.
introduce your brand.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
No,
Exactly.
for real. You have to dress for your audience. I mean, you can
Mhm.
so maybe the caveat to, you know, feeling confident, feeling comfortable in yourself is really whatever is appropriate. And I think
But
most
there
of
is
us
a
smart enough
gradation in
to
there too,
figure out
right?
what
Yeah,
it is.
yes, definitely.
Yeah,
Like it's not like you have to dress manly to be taken seriously, but
for
like
real.
get into a new workplace, take stock of how people are acting there and what they say, and boiling frog method, get them used to be you being a peacock.
Yeah,
And
no, for real, for real. And Naomi's got a great comment about editing looks because she doesn't feel like it's appropriate. Because she herself does, and I'm totally with you, Naomi. Like I love that full glam, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna wear it every day because I don't feel good in it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel good in it for a day to day. Like I feel
Mm-hmm.
good with like sort of cleaner skin and a bright lip and like darkish eyes. Like that's my feel good look.
Mm-hmm.
And like people need to figure out what their work appropriate version of their feel good look is. And women are smart enough
Yeah, and
Right.
even within your workplace, like in different circumstances, you can vary a little bit how you look because, for me personally, I am very lucky because you guys work in the corporate world and I don't have so much experience with that. Academia is a very like liberal place in terms of how you look like. So nobody has ever said a word about me sporting the rainbow looks at work because nobody gives a shit. But let's say I would go to a conference, where I have to present my research to other people, to people from around the world. I think I would like tone it down because I would feel like that's still, it's still me, but it's a more appropriate version of me given the circumstances.
You know what? We didn't address her math comment, and then we should just scroll down to the other ones because we're
So
missing
many
so many
great
good.
comments. Let
Yeah.
me like pause on our discussion and go through some of the comments
Yes.
because
So
there's
on the
some.
math thing, sorry, I interrupted you.
I
Um,
did you.
on the math thing, I think it depends on where you want to go and what you need to do. For example, in my job, so IT support, I don't need any math more than being good enough at knowing my simple numbers to do inventory of the hardware that I need to send out and take stock of. And again, for example, for programming, my boyfriend does programming. It was very math heavy during college for him, and he uses certain math concepts, but now that he does actual programming, he doesn't use any hard math at all.
Nice.
So it kind of depends on what you want to do because STEM, IT, computer work, science has so many branches and sub branches that don't necessarily have anything to do with mathematics.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of uh there's misconception about what kind of jobs exist in these spaces.
Yes, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
The there to your point, Mia, there's this variety of options that exist that you can be good at. And
Hmm.
honestly, it's just about getting in at the bottom at whatever field you want.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then just kind of like learning as you do and working your way up.
Mm-hmm.
And that can take anywhere from a few months to a few years, depending on the space you're in, depending on how quickly you pick things up, depending on a whole host of factors. But I'm finding that especially now it is not as prohibitive as it once was, because a lot of especially bigger companies, they have corporate D&I mandates that they have to meet, diversity and inclusion mandates that they have to meet. So they have to
Mm-hmm.
have a certain percentage staff have to be people of color, have to be from the LGBT community, have to be women, have to be whatever, 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 and that varies. That and at a big company, that's a corporate mandate. At
Hmm.
smaller companies, at startups,
Yeah.
it's organic to a lot of the founders because they are sort of our age, and for them, like, of course, you would just get the best candidate for the job, and of course, you should be intentional about hiring women and hiring people of color and hiring people that have different accessibility needs. Like, you need to be intentional about those things, and people our age know that. People from an older generation perhaps need that corporate mandate to tell them maybe a brown woman isn't the worst thing in the world for your team. So I feel like it's not as prohibitive as it once was to get into these jobs for a variety of different reasons, but I think you kind of have to pick a just pick something that you
Yes.
want to work in and get in at the ground, like
Mm-hmm.
get in at the ground floor and work your way up.
Yeah.
um yeah,
Okay,
but
let's
I don't
let's
want
pick
to do
another comment. Oh,
that.
sorry, I keep interrupting you. I suck. I'm sorry.
Don't, I keep interrupting you.
No, 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 no. I do. I do. It's just I suck.
No, you really don't.
Absolutely not.
But yeah, let's go back through some of these comments, and I'm still struggling with throwing them up on screen for some reason. It's just not
J-
working for me. So
it's not working. What are you on, laptop or
I'm
mobile or?
on a desktop, and I'm on a Windows OS. It's fine,
Oh.
dude. Like you're picking all the ones that I'm just like, ooh. So I'm
Ah, there was a really interesting one from Tarima, I think, at a certain point about Bangladesh. There it is.
oh yeah. And now we're having to scale back and also include male engagement projects. That's really interesting.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to know more about that because I don't think I know anything about that.
I've kind of seen it happen in Western environments as well. Like, I hear, for context, Romania is a very white country. Romania is not the progressive haven that maybe the US would be comparatively. And I keep hearing men saying, "Oh my God, these minorities are taking our jobs." And I'm like, which minorities,
What
dude, bro?
minorities?
Which?
Minority, apparently.
The only minorities you see are on TV. Which ones?
Yeah.
Or, oh, they're just hiring women because they're hiring women. I'm like,
Well,
okay, what's your
they do
proof?
get to pay us
What's your
30%
deal?
less, I suppose. So, I mean,
Maybe
But
the
yeah, like,
women were more competent.
yeah.
there are
God
some
forbid.
guys. There are some guys that are so used to this dude bro element of STEM adjacent that they just can't wrap their minds around something else. It's just a complete circle jerk because they
Yeah.
think they get confirmation bias whenever someone gets hired.
Honestly,
But
and a
what?
lot of dudes just don't. Again, like as we're being candid about this, like let's be very clear that a lot of men, because they're so unused to women in this space, are
Yeah.
even more unused to women leadership in this space,
Mhm.
and they don't react to it well.
You
But
know,
what
you
do
know
you
what's
think?
sorry, you know what's interesting? At all of my jobs, the majority of managers that I had were women.
It's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
but I but
fantastic.
yeah, but I think it's because it's more of a service culture. So not necessarily a research, project management, software development culture, but more of a service culture. I had a lot of women managers, 5 women managers, and then 2 male managers at my current job.
Yeah. I have experienced basically the glass elevator phenomenon like in almost every job I've had, which is that there are women maybe up to a junior management level, but above that it's pretty much all men.
But that's very similar in academic research. You will see so many women at the bachelor, master's, even the PhD student level. And as soon as you go up the ladder, they fall out one by one. And at the like the PI level, which is principal investigator, like the group leader, it's mostly men. And they're
Hmm.
starting to be a bit more conscious of that. And it really depends on, like, I can only speak of the Netherlands because I live here. I think that they are trying here at least somewhat to change that. So there are more and more women becoming group leaders. But
Hmm.
as a general rule, I would say that that glass elevator situation, the same in academic research, which is a
I'm
very
like living for
multifactorial problem.
Alex's comment. If you're scared about someone different taking your job, maybe you should just be better. Yeah, man.
Definitely,
Like, yeah.
definitely.
There's this old adage that oh my god, I don't even know where it comes from, but it's just this thing that people say, which is that for women to be considered half as good as men, you need to be twice as good as them. Like in
Definitely.
actuality. And I have found that to be true in my career, and I'm sure you guys have as well.
I'm gonna give you a secondhand opinion. So I actually had this talk with my boyfriend. We sometimes have it when I do meet his female coworkers, which aren't many. And I asked him at a certain point, what do you think that there aren't as many women programmers as there are men? And he said the following. He said that there's already a really limited small pool in his 50 something class in college. 3 of those 50 people were women. One of them dropped off. So out of a class of 50 people, let's say there are 10 classes of 50 people. If you have 3 women each, 30 women, and 1/3 of those do end up dropping off or going into another field, out of 500 candidates, you've got maybe 20 that are women, and then they also need to be qualified to get into that job. So there's such a tiny pool. And then I asked them, well, what do you think of how those few women that end up in the programming field perform? And he was like, they're either really good, where they can just go toe to toe with any single one of us, or they're not that great and they end up redirecting towards other areas because they can't keep up.
Mm.
And socially, he said, don't take it any sort of way, he said to me. And I'm like, come on, we've been together for 8 years. I'm not gonna take it any sort of way.
Yeah.
um He's like, it's pleasant to have females, women in your office space. There's a different
It's a different
atmosphere,
energy.
different
Different energy.
discussions,
Different
different
dynamics.
energy. Yes, they bring a new perspective, and it's like, it's nice to have a woman nearby when you work, out of a purely non-sexual, non any type of
Yeah.
weight level.
I mean, and then Alex has actually made another great one, which is that managerial roles require more soft skills, which women are definitely more socialized into doing. Men have the luxury of not having social skills, but being brilliant to whatever. You're completely right, man, because like the skill that it takes to be a programmer, be an excellent programmer, versus the skills it takes to lead a team of
Yes.
5 programmers to be excellent are completely different skills. They are
Definitely.
So
but
true.
completely different skills.
but I
And
feel soft skills.
unfortunately, like being good at the programmer thing is what will get you promoted, and it helps because it's like if you're unfortunately if you're a guy and you see another guy like doing amazing work, it's easier, I think, for a lot of dudes to be like, okay, this resonates with me because I
but I
know what success looks like because I've done it myself.
but I think it's also so for programming and for such technically minded fields, I think that they value, as employees, they value more a manager that has gone through the same thing as
Yep.
they did. So a very technically minded manager, they will
Yep.
respect their indications more than someone with just soft skills.
For
And
sure.
something that I wanted to point out earlier is that soft skills are a double-edged sword, because we have the soft skills necessary to know when not to push. Men keep pushing, and maybe when they do keep pushing, they do get more things than we would, just by the simple act of barreling like a bull into a china shop and demanding what they think is theirs.
But I think it's the reception of that pushing. It's the
Yes,
act of them doing the pushing, but it's perceived differently. And
yes, a
when
hundred
men do it
percent.
versus when women do it. Like it fucking sucks, but like it is perceived differently.
For
Like
sure. When a woman manages aggressively, she would be called a bitch any day. And
yeah.
when a man manages aggressively, he would be called a badass.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a powerful leader,
Yeah.
as opposed to a whole host of things. That's a very choice words that have been used for women, I think. But I mean, and it's in sales as well, in business development. Like the I think with any role, the skill it takes to be an individual contributor at a high level of success versus managing a team of individual contributors to be successful, they're different skills. It's just a different skill set, and I'm heartened that more and more people are going through leadership courses and going through like management training and that kind of thing, and hopefully it will change. But it's only now, for the first time in my current gig, I have a really strong sales leader. I have it is and it's occurring to me because the difference that I'm seeing now in terms of the kind of empowerment that I have, the kind of leadership that's being given to me, the direction that's being given to me, is so different than anything I've gotten before. So I'm being valued and treated. I'm being valued in a way that I never have before, and it's only occurring to me now because I'm able to kind of tell the difference.
100%. Like when I switched jobs, I realized that I was in an abusive relationship with my former job. And my former manager, my former manager was so good at gaslighting us. One of my former
Yeah,
coworkers
we should
said,
talk about that, man, because I feel like our experiences are so.
one of my former coworkers even said that that guy is the kind of guy that will show you like a wreck of a car, old beat up fucking car, no rims, no steering wheel, and by the end of his talk with you, he'll convince you that if you just polish it a bit, it will be a Lamborghini. And I was so overworked, and he kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I noticed the contrast when I got with my former job. My former manager was so good at gaslighting us. One of my former coworkers said, one of my former coworkers even said that manager now who is like, don't do overtime. Regular life is more important than work. Relax. If you've got time, relax. He's not the type of person that just thinks that we should work, work, work all of the time. And he realized that someone well rested and that can focus on what they're good at is a more proficient worker than someone that you just lie to continuously to try to keep them going.
Absolutely.
But what do you think would have happened if, like with your previous boss, you had set your limits and your boundaries to, okay, this is my boundary, you have crossed it, and I cannot do this anymore? What do you
So
think the reaction would have been?
he did respect that when push came to shove. The problem was that I was forced in a position of unofficial leadership with the rest of my team locally. So he was remote in Sri Lanka, and because I was the first one hired and then more people got hired, I was not their official manager, but I took care of everyone else. So it was very hard for me to set those kinds of limits when I knew other people depended on me for guidance and to pick up the slack. And because I have like a stupid hero and self-martyr complex that I continuously need to fight to not self-sacrifice for the greater good or whatever, I ended up not setting those boundaries just so the other members of my team could have an easier time. And it was particularly bad, and I decided to move jobs because I ended up feeling exhausted and crying at least 2 times a week at work.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's something that women are not very good at, setting
Yeah.
their boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that more that more nurturing inner, like, we want to
Yes.
get the job done.
Exactly. You want to be
Yeah.
collaborative. You want to be you want to be perceived as someone who's a good team player and a strong
Yeah.
asset to the group.
Yeah.
And
So
I think as women, our organic reaction is to go to, well, clearly I'm doing something wrong. Clearly
Yes.
it's me.
Yes.
I am doing something wrong, and I need to identify the problem and I need to fix it. And
But-
I don't know that a lot of dudes feel that way.
No, but that's the exact same discussion me and I had during my live stream when we talked about this different in like the brain wiring of men and women, and how women are just intrinsically more insecure and more prone to doubting themselves when something goes wrong. When something goes wrong, my first reaction is to say, fuck, what did I do wrong?
What did I do?
Let's take a step back and see what I did wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas a man would be like, what did these other people do wrong?
Exactly. I honestly, you're so right. You guys are just like spot on, because I honestly think it comes out of, it's one of those other things that we need to unlearn, and
Yes.
it's one of those things that we've been, I think, taught societally, maybe not actively by any one person, but culturally, it's just, you don't see a lot of women taking, there's no representation. There are just a handful of strong women that you can kind of look up to in those spaces, whose behavior you can model. And because there are so few, you kind of latch onto them for dear life.
Yes.
And you're just like, well, no, this person is going to be like my mentor, and I'm going to emulate every single thing that they do, because there are no models or there are limited models for that kind of behavior. And I think we are slowly unlearning that, like, your feelings are valid, your ambitions are valid, your goals are valid, and you should be allowed to pursue them in the fullest capacity that you can.
But have you go ahead,
Sorry.
Mariam, sorry.
Do you really think that it's something we can unlearn, or do you think it's so biologically wired into us that we're just always going to be like this? Men are always going to be like that, and we just have
really
to work
hope we
our
can
way
unlearn
around.
it. I'm an optimist, so I'm gonna say that we can unlearn it.
I think we can to a certain extent.
I think we can, and I think that we'll, to something you said earlier, Mariam, we'll raise our daughters that way. We'll raise our daughters to know better, just like our mothers raised us to know better. And
Yes.
like, well, that it might take a generation or two, but we'll get there, because we have to get there.
Yes, I think that's the thing, I think things,
Bye,
to go back to the
Megan.
question about whether, bye Meg, to go back to the question of whether things are changing and getting better, or are we still at the same spot where we were? I think you had highlighted that comment just
Yes.
a few minutes ago. I think yes, they are getting better, but we are going to have to be so patient that, for instance,
Yes.
it's not going to be in my generation that things are going to be significantly better. But of course, when I compare my generation to the generation of the 70s, yes, they are dramatically better.
Yes. Yeah.
But it just takes generations and a certain kind of mentality that needs to be literally needs to die off before true change can take place. And that's like the case for so many things, not just women in STEM or like the role of women in society, but like the same goes for racism and prejudice against the LGBT community. Everything, all of that will eventually dissipate, but it will take so long that our generation might not witness it.
Miss Davis is spot on though. Be the change you want to see. No, I completely agree. That is
Yes,
paraphrasing
100%.
a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, and that's one of the things that I really ascribe to. Like I really try to enable that in my life, and frankly, it's the reason I started my YouTube channel. Like, to be completely honest, because I was like,
Same.
I'm not seeing the kind of discourse I would like to see in this space. I don't see a lot of people of color in this space. So I am a person of color who can maybe do some discourse. So that's
And you succeeded. You're doing a wonderful
thanks,
job
man.
at it.
Only because I have the support of people like you.
Yeah.
So thank
I
you.
will forever be a simp.
I love it.
I wanted to go back to that because I think one of the most important factors in a woman who feels confident in not just sciences but in the world is upbringing. Because I was thinking, okay, what made me a relatively confident person? And I think it goes right back to my parents, and especially my mom, who taught me to not take bullshit from people.
100%.
Yes.
So
and even if it's not your biological mother, having a woman in your life that can do that for you is so impactful. And it's one of the reasons why I really I try to do the coaching thing and the mentoring thing to as many people as I can, not because I'm like fucking amazing at it or anything. I'm not, but like I know how challenging it was for me to find someone who would do that for me. And if I can do even like a fraction of that for someone else, I know how meaningful it was to me.
A question that I wanted to ask earlier is, I have noticed in my field, for example, that there is no middle ground with how women act towards each other. So it's either a very strong sisterhood. So like it's with me and this coworker, we hold on to each other for dear life and have each other's back.
Yes.
And that happened with other coworkers as well. Or there is this very competitive. She is my enemy. She is my competition, even though we're in different whole departments.
Yeah.
And I've read this. There is no middle ground.
No, I agree. It's
really weird.
I think you're, and I'd love to hear how it is in academia, but in the corporate world, in private, because I've only ever worked in private sector. I'm currently adjacent to public sector, and work very closely with them, but I've never actually worked in public sector or in academia. So I'd love to know, Mariam, what you think. But me and my experience is actually quite similar to yours in that I find that you're right. Women in the space come in two flavors. Either they recognize that there are so few women at this level in this industry, in this space, in professional women, like whatever else, that you empower each other and you collaborate with each other and you appreciate each other and you make space for the other person in meaningful ways. Or having had that same realization, there are not that many women in this space, you feel compelled to be one of the few that are there, and you don't want to empower women around you. Instead, you want to sort of like drag them down so you can be ahead.
But do you feel it's maybe a byproduct of regular patriarchal conditioning?
Always yes. When the question is the problem the patriarchy, the answer is always yes.
I mean, it feels like we are pit against each other with everything,
Yeah.
with looks,
Yeah.
with sexual attractiveness, and how we are in the sexual market. I fucking hate that term.
No, honestly,
Yeah,
it makes
no,
me
it's
want to
just,
throw up.
yeah, market value.
Ugh, Jesus Christ.
Just fucking hate that. So it feels like
Ugh.
translates into the corporate world as well.
Yeah.
Being surrounded by so many men, you feel the need to be top bitch
Yeah.
for nothing. For
Yeah.
literally nothing. For
Yeah.
what? Poorly dressed programmers? For whom?
Yes.
They can't even match their pants to their shirt, girl.
Yo, I'm
Your
sorry, man, but
sisters will do you
for
better.
real, if you've got like pit stains on your t-shirt, you don't get to judge what I look like.
Yes.
Like, I'm sorry, but you just don't. Like, if you've got deodorant stains on your t-shirt, like, not to say that that's like, that happens. I've got lots of deodorant stains on my t-shirts, but like, if I'm ever wearing one of those in public, you better fucking believe I am not judging anyone around me. But Mariam, I'm going back to sort of women in academia. Like, what are,
Yeah.
yeah? What are
So
your thoughts?
I have never actually had like a female coach because I've never been under the supervision of like a female professor. So
No,
I
my
find it
my
very
coaches, my
difficult.
female coaches are always people I've not worked with directly.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
because
I've
I'm
been
in the
lucky and
same
I've
division.
always like met females surrounding me in academia who've just been supportive of each other. And I've never had the experience of, coming across another female researcher who just feels like we are in competition. But I'm sure those exist.
Yeah,
And I'm not really,
100%.
sure whether, yeah, I don't know. I think there are, for sure there are, but maybe once you reach the higher tiers where you have to be more competitive because it's we have this expression in academia, publish or perish.
yes.
And at the level that I operate, it's still all, we work together, we are a team, we're a collaborative effort, and it very much depends on. So when I was searching for I stumbled into my PhD position because I did my master's internship in that lab, and I made a discovery during that master's internship, which was so incredibly interesting that I had to pursue it for a PhD position. And I never for a second even thought about any other like factors surrounding it. When I was looking for my postdoc, on the other hand, and not because I had a horrible experience during my PhD, I did have some unpleasant experiences, but they were nowhere near horrible. But when I was looking for my postdoc position, I did consider very much not just the actual research topic. Like, the research topic was even less of an issue for me than the people and the group I'm going to work with. So my direct supervisor and the people I'm going to work with. And one of the things that I found very attractive about my current supervisor, the professor that I work with, is I think that he considered it just as important to hire people who work together well, rather than people who are at the top of whatever respective. Like, when I was
That's
hired to do my
amazing and
postdoc,
unique, frankly, because I
yes,
don't know that that's a standard way of doing things, but that is
no, but that
amazing
is
to
one
hear.
of the reasons I've not really had a horrible experience, because when I interviewed for a job with him, it was very clear to me that he's not just looking for someone who's an expert in the field that he's searching for. And frankly, I wasn't an expert in either of the two fields he hired me for. I told him, listen, I come from a completely different research field. I'm more than willing to learn. I have some background in one of the research fields, but the other one is like a blank page to me. I'll have to learn everything. But he hired me in the end because I feel like he thought I would fit in the group really well. And now that I know our research group, I think he does such a great job at hiring people who work very well in unison and as a team.
That's
That
wonderful.
is what I consider to be
That's
his
amazing.
biggest strength.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Teamwork can compensate for lack of knowledge because you build each other up.
Yeah.
Speaking of building up, I want to address some of Tarima's comments because I feel they are important.
Yes.
And they appeal to my hero complex of helping people.
Yeah.
So the
And
first one,
actually, we should go through like a bunch of these comments because they're so great,
definitely,
and we keep talking about doing it. But like, let's I think spend the next like
yes,
half hour, 40 minutes, like whatever, going through them
definitely.
because they're so great.
So Tarima has a few important ones where she's first one is that she doesn't know how to be unapologetically feminine and still be imposing and hold my ground and be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Listen, it comes with experience at faking it
Yes.
at first. The
Yeah.
more you do it, the more you pretend that you are comfortable with both, and you end up realizing that there are actually no negative consequences, that
Yeah.
the world isn't going to fall on top of you if you're like that. The more you gather genuine confidence. It is very uncomfortable at first. It is
Yeah.
awkward because you're not used to trying to be both at the same time.
Yes.
But the more you are, the more it comes. And she said another thing. So she feels that her male coworker, who is on equal
Mm-hmm.
footing with
Yeah.
her, he's taken more seriously. And then another comment where her supervisor just naturally has a more candid conversation, and it drives her nuts.
Yeah.
So the candidness one, I feel that you shouldn't attribute to malice what
Yeah.
can be attributed to ignorance. I know I have a tendency to be more candid with my female coworkers than my male ones until I get to know them really well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are very candid with another, the different sex in the workplace, it can always be misconstrued, especially as your supervisor. So I feel that he's keeping you at arm's length, not necessarily because he dislikes you, but because you are unknown woman that is his direct subordinate.
Mm.
And the wrong foot can either end up with you feeling insulted, with him in hot water, or with a straining working relationship. So I feel that maybe it's not necessarily sexism as it is him being wary of workplace dynamics until he gets to know you well. And as
Yeah.
for taking your colleague more seriously, yeah, that's sexism.
Yeah.
Sexism. That's
That's
pure
like, yeah.
sexism.
Yeah. But
But
to go back, sorry, Mary, go ahead.
can I ask you a question, Terima? When you say something, do you say it confidently or do you say it with all the perhaps maybe we can do it
Tentatively.
that way?
Tentatively and
I'm not really
cautiously.
sure, but maybe we should
Yeah.
try this because it makes such a tremendous difference how you say something. If you say
Absolutely.
something in, I think we should do it that way, I'm going to do it that way, nobody's going to question you. But
Yeah.
if you start saying, oh, perhaps we should do it that way, I'm not sure, what do you think? It's a completely different conversation you're having. But
For
it takes a
sure.
very long time, and you have to push yourself into uncomfortable circumstances, and you have to push yourself to
Yeah.
say what you think out loud to people at the risk of them thinking you're
Yeah.
being a fool.
But the you're worth doing that work for. You're
100%.
worth putting in the effort for yourself. Put yourself in those uncomfortable, like, remove the hesitancy from the things that you say, because you're worth that effort. You're worth making that effort for yourself. But I before we go to another comment, I want to go back to that one about sort of not really being sure that you can be feminine and also being
Mm-hmm.
taken seriously. I feel like there's a there's an unfortunate and incorrect conflation of things that are feminine as being silly, and things, and just because you like makeup is not silly. Like, it's okay to like looking a certain way and also be the fucking smartest woman in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can do both of those things. You can have 25 different like red lipsticks in your drawer and still be the primary contributor to a project. Like, they are not mutually exclusive. And
Mm-hmm.
it
100%.
is complete in not only, and it's not just makeup, it's anything that has a primary female audience is considered frivolous. It's
Mm-hmm.
considered silly. Boy
Superficial.
bands are like the biggest money makers in the music world, but because their audience is primarily preteen girls, they're considered silly and ridiculous. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Listen,
really, man?
guys will look at the same rehash self-insert action movie in which the
Bullshit.
character
Yeah.
is a bland as a cardboard, and in the
Yes.
same sentence
Yes.
they will sound on Twilight. In the same
Honestly.
sentence,
Honestly.
what Twilight compared to those is like a masterpiece
Oh,
in
yeah.
fiction by comparison. And related to the phrases that Mariam mentioned, that's called hedging. hedging phrasing. And I also actively had to learn not to use it because, especially in a client facing position, when you're
Yes.
telling them essentially what to do,
Yep.
they don't take you seriously, man or woman, if
Yep.
you use hedging words just as
If
if
you
we could
hesitate, yeah.
just, maybe we should. And an exercise that I found particularly useful for this was when I wasn't put on the spot. So when I was writing emails or I knew what I wanted to say, I would first write it as it came to me, and then I would edit it and edit it out. And it made me more aware of where I tend to use these,
Yeah.
which helped me not use them in the future.
Yep.
And that's something that I said to my newly hired female coworker a while back at the former job. I told her, even if you're not sure, don't let people know with your words that you're not sure.
Yep.
Users, because that's what we call people that use technology in, in slang, in our lang here. Users smell fear like dogs. Doesn't matter if you think
Yes.
you're bullshitting them, bullshit them with confidence. They have
Yes.
no way of knowing that you're bullshitting them.
Absolutely. You are the subject matter expert. You are the one that knows more in this dynamic. Even if it might not feel that way, it is objectively true.
Terima, I just wanted to go back. You mentioned that you're doing a research internship, which means that you're more at like the beginning stages of your career, I would assume. And I think a lot of the confidence also comes with more experience, with
Definitely.
age, with
Absolutely.
it's a combination of factors. And trust me, just keep going the way you're going, and in 5, 6, 7, 10 years, you're going to feel differently.
You really are. And it's amazing that these things are being relevant for you now at the early stages of your career, because I can promise you, for me, it didn't occur to me to be something to focus on until at least a few years in. And it's amazing that you are paying attention to these things now. Like, good for you, man. Like, you will
Yes.
go leaps, and Mia, and you as well, dude. Like, all of these like amazing women in their 20s that are making such, the strides that you take are so much more powerful and longer than the ones I ever took in my 20s. And I love seeing it.
I was so
love it
inconfident in my 20s. Oh my gosh. I'm not the person I'm now.
Same.
That I was in my 20s. And it's not just my career. It's been also the moving abroad and living by myself factor that has hugely contributed to building up more self-confidence. But it has also a lot to do with just life experience.
For sure.
Gathering.
Sure.
It has taken me up till like a few years ago to be more confident. I was not confident when I did my first research internship at the lab. I was the last person that you would call confident.
Yeah. I empathize, man, because I was exactly there. Lots of hedging, lots of and again, I think it comes down, or at least partially will come down, to the fact that your models for women in those roles are so limited. So you're limited in seeing what success could look like for you. But I think that's one of those things that's changing. So yeah. But yeah, more comments, please, because these are amazing. Can we scroll up, because I feel like there's like a bunch that we kind of skipped over.
Tell me which ones you want me to highlight, please.
Okay, cool.
Because I would highlight everything at this rate,
I'm saying, man, like, just like all of them. There.
I totally get it, Terima. You feel like he's piggybacking on you. It's horrible. You can't do anything about it. So just keep going the way you're going, and just don't compare yourself to him. Fuck him.
Yeah. Well, Isabel has a couple of comments about working in public accounting, which is a completely male-dominated industry, and that I think is actually particularly.
She's an international tax.
Like 10:36 was the time that I have here, Mia. So I don't know if. Yes, thank you. Those that I think is particularly interesting, because not only is accounting a male-dominated industry, it's one of those ones that is incredibly traditional in terms of a corporate structure.
That's so weird because here
Yeah.
most accountants here are female. I would say
So interesting.
75-80% of accountants are female, and
That's so interesting, dude.
I always saw accountant work and adjacent economical work that relates to budgets and financing as a primarily female pursuit.
That's
And
super interesting.
and
'Cause
most
in North
economics
America,
students
it's primarily male.
most economics students both
I
in
can't
college
contribute to
and
this.
and economic high school were female. Like my economics
Huh,
high school, my class was 23 women, 7 guys.
that's
And
insane,
you
dude.
exactly, and it was very similar with other classes in the high school as well, like 20 girls, 10 guys. I think the most they had like an even split of 15-15. And then
Wow.
if you go to the economical colleges, you do get a more even split, but again, it's quite female oriented, so
That's
it's
pretty
weird to
interesting.
me. Yeah, it was weird to me
So,
when you said male field. I was like, what, where?
so yeah, no, in North America, like accounting, finance in general is very male dominated. And very traditional corporate hierarchy. There, it's a conservative space. Like the space that I'm in is sort of energy and tech. The tech
Hmm.
elements of it is really progressive. It's really forward thinking in a lot of ways. The energy part of it is quite conservative because it is that is the public sector part of the gig, and that is much more closer related to like government and legislation and policy and all of these different things. And I think finance is quite similar. It's very traditional. And that I think is maybe what Isabel is talking about, because that's
Hmm.
been my experience of that space as well.
I think it depends because I here it's like I do think as finance bros as particularly male, but not in the, as I said, in the budgeting, finance, accountant thing, and even at all of my mother's workplaces, because she does like budget adjacent. She's like an executive administrator, whatever. She's gone through a lot of jobs over the ages, but every time the finance department was so many women,
That's
so
interesting.
many women, and maybe a lone guy.
That is so interesting. It has always been the other way around for me in North America, and especially finance is still male dominated, very corporate. Yeah, it is. It's very
Yeah,
corporate,
yeah, yeah.
very
I
very
That's
think
corporate.
it's
so
also
interesting.
the higher you go, the more male dominated it gets, related to what we spoke earlier.
Class
Hmm.
elevator.
We
Yeah.
love you, Tarima.
Oh,
We
thanks,
appreciate you as
girl.
well. Also,
You're really
I don't.
awesome, dude.
Isabel is always goals.
No kidding, man.
She was breaking gender barriers when I was still like
Yes.
a sparkle in my dad's eye. Like I was in there swimming, living my best sperm life, and she
Alright,
was there paving the
Mariam,
way for the rest of us. I
as
love it.
as the older hags in this conversation.
She paved the way for us, and we are going to pave the way for you, Tarima.
Yes,
It's gonna be great.
yes. I love it.
This is what this is. I think what we were talking about is that like strong women are always going to be making space for other women,
Hmm.
and that's it's going to be so great to for us to have a chance to do that.
100%.
Yeah.
Let's address another of Isabel's comments because I'm going to say something very controversial and
Believe
will
it or
get me
not,
cancelled.
more
Oh,
people did better.
People did
Oh yeah,
yes.
better.
no, what a surprise, Isabel.
And yeah, let me get cancelled. I have
Oh,
absolutely no scruples in using my feminine charm and my good looks, or relative good looks, or
no, no,
whatever,
good looks,
to make
non caveated good looks.
Yes.
exactly, like to make myself liked and to get things from people to help me do my
Yeah,
job.
no, same.
As I mean, I'm not gonna, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna get on my knees for anyone or
No.
something, but men are so susceptible to a little flattery, a little soft tone of voice, just playing it up a bit. How, I really could use the help, and I'll owe you a favor later. you know what? This is the society that we're in, and I will profit from it. I will make misogyny work for me, and
Good
I
for
will
you, Mia.
steamroll them afterwards.
You know what? I'm
I
with you,
couldn't
man.
agree more.
I am with you. Like I again, like I'm not getting nominees for anyone. Like that's a great way to frame it. But no, I'm not above you thinking that I'm like fawning over you a little. Like that's fine.
Yeah,
You wanna think you're better than me for the
exactly.
first 20 minutes of this interaction. You go right fucking ahead.
Yes, as
Because
long as
I
it
know that you're
serves
gonna sign a $1
me.
million contract at the end of this hour.
Yes, as long as it serves me. And it's like, it's also, as I said, I play a very fine line of corporate Game of Thrones,
Oh yeah.
where, as I said, I like them to think of me as very soft, very kind, very approachable. But once in a while,
Oh
I
yeah.
I remind them that I am to be feared.
Yo, do you guys have different voices? Because I
Yes,
find I have like different
Yes,
voices for different. Because
yes,
I
I
don't
have
think so.
like a prospecting voice, which is when I'm like sussing someone out, and then I have my like business leader voice, and
yes,
you know what I mean.
exactly,
So I have like
exactly.
at least 3 different voices for work.
Major code switching. A major code
Yes,
switching happens.
yes.
Yes,
Yo, I'd love to hear your voices. Tell me, dude, because I think I heard one of Mia's just now.
yes.
Yeah, I heard that sweet saccharine voice, and I have something very similar, which is why it reminded me. Because mine is like, oh hey, I think that we could really offer something really really powerful for you. So we should talk about what solutions you're looking for. I'd love to understand
Exactly,
how your programs are
exactly.
evolving, and that's like it's this.
The
Honestly,
kiss ass voice.
I kind of hate it. Like I can only do it for about 10 minutes before I'm like, yo, I hate this woman. Who the fuck is she? I hate her. I hate her. I hate her. But then
Ah,
like, after 20 minutes, then like the more business leader voice starts to come on, like once I've
exactly.
kind of established that rapport. So
Frog in boiling water, get
yeah.
them used to you. I
Yeah.
have, I always freak out people with my customer service voice. Because,
Oh,
What's your
okay,
customer service voice?
Jinx. I
look,
also want to
it's
know.
very chill, very even toned. I speak much slower than I would regularly would, with a
Right.
deeper pitch, because that inspires confidence, and it also translates well
Ooh,
over
that's
the
good.
phone. And I
Oh,
also try to be very explanatory.
Mhm.
For
right.
example, if I would explain to you the comments in this customer service voice
Naomi
that I
said,
have.
sorry, Naomi, I just have to say this. Being cute gets me so far with the little
Yes.
fucking same, man. Because a lot of the dudes that I work with in the energy space are like, they're like old white guys who are in government or like really close to
Hmm.
government. So, like, it's not about being cute necessarily, but it's about letting them feel like they are the ones with the upper hand in the power
Hmm.
dynamic that doesn't
Mm.
actually exist. But you know what? If you need to feel like you're more powerful than me for the first 20 minutes of us talking, you go fucking right ahead because I know exactly how this conversation is going to go.
Code switching for
I
the
love that.
patriarchy. I love that. I love that. I also love Tarima saying she has different voice. Fefi says, you don't know how fast I changed from my
Yo, I
secretary
love
voice. Are
it.
you fucking
Oh,
kidding me, voice? 100%. But yeah, you have to
oh,
code switch.
they have like code switching in different voices. I love this so much. This is so delightful.
But I legit had to teach code switching to some of my male coworkers because it wouldn't come naturally to them. And I was like, you need to speak slower. You need to deepen your voice. You need to exude this air of confidence. And you need to speak to people
Yeah.
not condescendingly,
No,
but
no, no.
Mhm.
very explanatory, step by step.
Yeah.
Because maybe the people that call you don't know computers, but you
Yeah.
wouldn't know how to do their job either.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why you guys need to make those commentary videos, and I shouldn't. I
What?
don't have that kind of patience. I don't have that kind of patience. You guys can explain something in your, sugarcane voice so that the message gets across, and I'm just like, you're not getting this, and I'm getting frustrated.
No, I don't. In commentary, I don't feel that I use the sugarcane voice. I feel
No.
that I've got like that tone. I don't know if you know that TikTok audio that goes like very sweet and soft, and then it goes with like, or maybe we should kill God
Yeah.
or something like that, or maybe be God. Like I feel that I alternate between the two there in the commentary things.
Oh
You're playing
man.
a game
Oh
of
yeah,
fine balance
Isabella. I've
there.
also learned not to let them think I do not know as much. And yeah, no, honestly, yeah,
Exactly.
it is fucking like it's really telling that the best way to get ahead with some of these old dudes is to let them think that they're smarter than you.
It took
It's
me such a
really
long while.
disappointing, but that's like the
Yes.
reality of the situation.
It took me such a long while in all areas of life that to realize that the end result is more important than
Yes.
me being right or my ego or me
Yeah.
being perceived a
Ego.
certain way.
Ego and perception of self are the two big things that I think as women, and in talking about things that we need to unlearn is and playing the game within the system that exists to the points that you guys made is like those are the things I think that uh we all need to it sucks, but like if we just
Mm-hmm.
it starts with us acknowledging that there are flaws in the system.
100%. And playing
And
it to our advantage while also trying to change it from within.
Mm-hmm.
It's a delicate balance. Okay,
yeah.
let's go back up to comments so we don't
Yeah.
lose more
Oh
as
man.
time goes by.
So many amazing ones. Everyone, I'm honestly so happy with like this
Yes.
this community of women that are just incredibly insightful and they just always say the most meaningful things. Like I just love it.
Isabel, how do you feel about switching from international text to life coaching? You have
Yeah.
an audience here.
Or your side hustle,
Sign
girl.
me up. Sign me up.
Side
Yeah, I
hustle.
know. Sign me up as well.
Yeah.
Isabella's goals.
Honestly.
And not just with like life coaching, her makeup collection is goals as well.
Yo, that's awesome, man. That is awesome. Rather be underestimated than overrated.
A
Spot
hundred
on there, man.
percent.
Spot on. Oh, Tarima, I'm happy to hear you feel like this is insightful. Like it's
Thank you.
Terima, oh,
and all women
oh,
love
I'm
Tarima.
back. I'm back. Terima, use your femininity to advantage you. That's what I would
Yes,
say.
girl, do
Because
it.
in my experience, showing your feminine side doesn't make you weaker. It actually intimidates people.
Exactly.
It does. It does. That's a great point. That is a great point. And goes back to the thing of like, do what feels good for you. Like in terms of your expression and presentation of yourself.
Yeah.
If that is ultra feminine, like
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing more impactful than you feeling good about yourself and you being able to project that sense of confidence.
A
And
Mm-hmm.
that
100%.
comes from a bright pink lip, girl. You wear that bright pink lip. Embrace all sides of you. Yes, Emily.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Be who you are. Don't be somebody else
Mm-hmm.
because you think they will think less of you. No, be who you are
Yeah.
and just go for whatever it is that you want to go for in life without be unapologetic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, know your limitations, know your boundaries, know when you have to behave or look in a certain way, but don't be somebody else because you're afraid that you will be judged by other people. That's a really important lesson that I've learned as an
Mm-hmm.
like as I age. I don't give
Mm-hmm.
a shit what people think about me anymore.
Hey, I would love to ask you guys a question. It's clear that you've made some very thoughtful choices to get to where you are today in your career, personally, professionally, and these kinds of things. But like, I'd love to know like one really good thing that happened for you professionally over the last like month, 2 months. Like something that really made you feel like, you know what? Yeah, I've made some good choices and I'm where I should be.
I can tell you, I had a meeting with my boss just a few months ago, and before that, I was feeling terrible because I had actually convinced myself that he doesn't want to keep me in his group, and he's going to probably like let me go next year when my contract ends, and it's going to be the end for me because he has chosen one of my colleagues to be his successor, and I'm not going to stay in his group. And then we had my progress meeting, and he told me, and I don't even think I said anything actively. I just said, hey, let's talk about my future in your group. He said, I'm working on your future in my group because I want to keep you. It's on my top priority list
Aww.
to keep you. And that meant so much to me that it completely like changed the whole way I felt. Like I was feeling really, really crappy up till like a few weeks ago. And it gave me so much confidence to just go for all the things that I want to in research, and to just be more confident to say, hey, let's broaden a little bit my contribution to your group. Let me participate in other things. And we had such a wonderful discussion about my future in his group, and I felt so much more confident that I'm not going to be jobless next year.
That's awesome, man. That is a
That's
great.
awesome. Congrats.
That's awesome. That's a great story. And
But I had to take that step to make the appointment to have this meeting with him, and to say, hey, let's talk about my future. Because before that I was like, no, I don't want to have this meeting. What am I going to say? I felt so negatively about it.
yeah,
And it just took that simple 1 hour conversation to turn everything around.
yeah, that's awesome, man.
Mia, how about
a great
you?
story. Yeah, Mia.
For me, I think it's more how I feel than one certain thing, because I'm used to getting really good feedback from my bosses and my management, and in this job in particular, I've never felt like my position was in jeopardy or that I wasn't doing a good enough job. Um, the moment that I felt that I took the right decision to move my career in the direction that it has, so after the job shift, was I had my one-to-one with my boss, and he said what I expected. That is that, he loves having me on my team, on his team, blah, 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 good feedback. And as the weeks went by, as I went past my probationary period, I noticed that I was feeling less stressed. I didn't have stress acne anymore. Pre-corona, my sleeping schedule regulated. Now it's shit because corona, but whatever.
But I was
I
gonna say
was,
your skin looks dope as hell. Like
I know, right? It's
on the
because
top
I'm not
of the great
stressed
skin.
anymore.
It looks amazing.
Oh my god, that makes such a huge difference
Exactly.
for your
And
quality of life.
Right?
exactly. And I'm better with my friendships, with my relationship, because I'm no longer being stressed 9 hours out of my day.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, you know what? This is good.
Isabel for the win.
That's
This
awesome.
is good.
That's so great.
Congratulations, Isabel.
That's amazing.
That's awesome as well. Yeah, Derma, I would love to answer that question, but so my moment actually came in the last like maybe about 2 weeks. So the thing with sales is that it's all about targets. You gotta meet your targets. You gotta meet your targets, and especially with smaller companies, when the sales team doesn't meet the targets, people lose their jobs. Like people, like you have a very uh direct impact on the company's performance, because you are making the revenue and whatever else, and uh unfortunately with corona, with covid, what's effectively happened is that there was about a quarter and a half in North America, where because the energy is a federally and state regulated service that gets provided to citizens, to people who live here, um for about a quarter and a half, there was basically the states and the government had basically told all the utilities, all the energy companies, hey, listen, stop what you guys are doing, pause on business as usual. We're going to be doing emergency COVID response stuff, which is, there's going to be thousands and tens of thousands of people entering a lower income bracket. People are going to be home much more, so a lot of electricity usage at home is going to go up. Meanwhile, electricity usage in the business and commercial space is going to go down because those are closing. So there's a lot of big shifts that happen that require an immediate response from the energy industry. So what that means for someone like me that has annual targets that you need to meet is I still have those targets. I still have the targets for 365 days, but I have lost 100 days of work.
Ouch.
So and that's the unfortunate reality of my situation. So earlier in the week, my boss, the CEO of the company, just this amazing dude. We had a really candid discussion about the impacts of me potentially not meeting those targets and that kind of thing. And the thing with sales is how much shit can you take before you get the thing you want? Like that's basically all sales is. It's like how many times can you hear no? Like how resilient are you to hearing no? Because you're gonna hear it a lot. And so I don't necessarily recommend it to the whole world. But like but if you like the hustle, it's a great gig. But we had a really kind of discussion on what it might look like if I didn't meet those targets, and it left me even though like I know intellectually that the industry is in a certain place and the market is in a certain place, like I know all of those things, it's really difficult for me to not take it as a personal failing and to not feel like it's my gap and not feel like it's me not doing enough and me not working well enough and me not it's me, it's clearly me that is causing this gap. So I was feeling pretty, even though it was a really reasonable conversation, like this dude he is amazing, he was amazing doing this conversation, but it left me in a spot where I was like, fuck, I'm just terrible at my job. I'm like the worst human being in the whole world, and all of these different things. But then later that week, he called me again, and he basically like asked for my advice on managing a certain strategic account, and
Nice.
that really that gave me the boost that I needed to be like, you know what? He obviously trusts me. He
Mm-hmm.
obviously values my
He
ability.
doesn't think I'm worthless.
Exactly. I'm the only idiot who thinks I'm worthless. He does not. And like it was so meaningful to me because I needed that validation from him to remind me
That's
that like
amazing.
I'm someone whose opinion matters. And uh, I felt like shit for like the week, and like but it was a good way to cap off the week with him basically being like, listen, like I know we're in a rough spot, but I trust you. I trust you, and I know that you are the right person for this job. And that was my moment over the last 2 weeks. It was.
Amazing.
But segueing from that to Tarima's question about please talk about a moment in your careers when you felt like you made it and you felt confident and something that boosted momentum. For me, last year I worked with a professional coach for the first time. The company that I worked with had a development budget, and most larger companies do have some kind of development budget. And I highly, highly encourage everyone to use theirs. Like, please use your development budget. Take a course, go to a seminar, like use it for something. There were no courses that I wanted to take. So I spoke to my HR and said, hey, I would like to develop myself as a professional. Um, I would like to work with a coach for 4 to 6 weeks, and I would like to use my professional development budget towards that. And again, Miriam, to the point that you made, have the conversation, ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get what you don't ask for. And like
Yes, yes.
so so
I spend so much time internalizing problems and like going vicious circles in my mind until I have come to the point where I have convinced myself that I'm worthless. And it takes one sentence, one question to resolve the problem and to just get out
Mm-hmm.
of that rut. But you have to make that step, push yourself, because I think that for me, the reason why I wouldn't do it is because I didn't dare to hear a feedback if it were negative. I was afraid, what if he gives me negative feedback? That will bury me. So you need to like go into that conversation expecting that it can go either way. But if it goes in a positive way, then it's such an incredible boost.
and honestly, negative feedback is an opportunity.
True.
It's
True.
an opportunity for you to identify areas that you could shore yourself up that
True.
maybe you hadn't identified before. And if someone
Absolutely.
values you enough to have the uncomfortable conversation,
Mm-hmm.
you are worth keeping around. They're
Absolutely.
not
100%.
going to bother like saying
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable shit to you if they don't think you're worth it.
Yeah.
Like they're not gonna bother. They're just gonna be like, all right, cool, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
But like
But
if they're willing to tell you that, hey, these are some areas that you might want to look at, they're willing to be uncomfortable with you
mhm.
to make sure that your relationship can progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. But like the issue, for instance, that I've had with my boss is not an issue, but it's more of he will only tell you that things are not going well if things are not going well. He will not say anything if things are going well. And
Yeah,
at
no
some
news
point
is good news.
you just need a little bit of validation that things are going well, because at some point I was really like, I don't know, he's not saying anything, but maybe he's really unhappy with me and he's just, giving me like the silent treatment until next year when he says, well, I'm sorry, we're not going to prolong your contract.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no news is good news, man. Like it sucks, but that's unfortunately true. And like I, it's something that I try very hard, like for my own style of leadership, is to be more communicative about
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
things that are going well, because
Yeah.
I know that I have gotten it so rarely in my previous jobs, and I know how meaningful it is to me to know
Yes.
that like if I'm doing a good job, I want to know that I'm doing a good job.
Yeah. But it takes
Mm-hmm.
so little, right? You just tell someone, hey, you did a great
Yeah,
job, or
Yeah.
you're doing a great
Hey,
job, or
thanks so
thank you
much.
so much for
Yeah,
contributing with
exactly.
this
yeah,
particular thing.
totally.
It just takes so little to achieve so much.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But Terima, to get back to the point where whether I have reached the level in my career where I'm completely satisfied with it, I don't think I'm there yet.
No, neither. Yeah. I'm unfortunately at a point where I actually feel like I'm a few years behind where I would like to be right now, because I had a really um Mia, I think your experience and mine are quite similar with our last positions in terms of the bad boss and the gaslighting and the and and unfortunately what that has translated to for me is that I feel like I'm a solid 3 to 5 years behind where I should be in theory.
Mm-hmm.
Like I should be at one level higher in terms of seniority, in terms of title. The job that I'm doing, the work that I'm doing is all at that level, but the title is not, specifically because I had a very specific professional experience before this one.
Mm-hmm.
That is unfortunately something that can happen if you're not careful about letting people um, take advantage of your desire to be good at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And
100%.
yeah, yeah.
I
But
think for
anyway,
me,
professional development, man, use that budget. You probably have a budget. Use it.
I was going to say, actually I did, but I had an epiphany about a particular relationship with a colleague that was going wrong. I had an epiphany about that during my career coaching, and not so much a personal epiphany. It was so like one of those like light bulb moments that when I went back to work, I was like, I need to talk to you, like to this colleague, because I finally know what our problem is.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it can
nice.
be very helpful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that was one of the workshops I've attended in the past, was about giving feedback, about
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I find myself challenged with, is because I'm very receptive to getting feedback. I'm not so great at giving feedback because I don't want to appear confrontational. I don't want to appear
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
abrasive. And so I've been finding ways to sort of have a better communication strategy around telling people, hey, I'd like to talk to you about X, I'd like to talk to you about Y. But stopping that vicious cycle of like
Mm-hmm.
blaming yourself and going through it in your head, when really just a quick 2 to 3 minute conversation will
Mm-hmm.
resolve so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I think for me, to answer Tarima's question earlier, I think it was one moment and a series of smaller moments that, looking behind at them, made me realize that, maybe I'm not as successful as I would like to be theoretically, and I've got a way to go, but I'm very happy and I feel that I've made it objectively. So
Amazing.
one of them was between switching jobs. It was very validating because my current boss really wanted me on this team. Like, had multiple chats with me to convince me to not stay in the old team and come to his one. And so it was very validating because it was clear that he prized my skills and he wanted me part of that team. And at the same time, I got two more offers from two other internal
Nice.
teams. And I was like, guys, I don't know anything about what you're doing. And they said, yeah, but we trust you. We'll train you. We know you can figure it
Learn the
out.
job, man. You can learn the
You can
job.
Yeah,
learn anything. Yeah.
exactly. And then the series of smaller moments, it was every time people came to me to ask for my opinion, for a question, for knowledge. And it started happening more and more often. And people started depending more and more on me. And my reputation as being some deep and walking encyclopedia of the company got built to the point where I woke up one day and I realized that if I quit tomorrow, they're screwed.
Fucked.
Because as much as I like to write documentation, and I have like a whole book written, just like Fefi, I have so much of the company's documentation is written by me. I realized that there are so many tiny things that wouldn't have made it into a specific knowledge article that if I leave tomorrow, they're fucked.
Yeah.
And that's a sadistic thought, but it's validating.
No, it's so great, man. It means they need you more
You
than
have the upper hand.
yeah.
Yes, exactly.
They need you more than you need them, and that's
Yes.
that's awesome. That is
Dude,
awesome.
if you're at that stage when you're 26, what are you going to be when you come to
You
be
are
my
gonna
age?
you're gonna
The
change the world.
chosen one.
What the
I want to be
hell?
the
It's gonna be
chosen
amazing.
one.
Yeah. No,
But I
I
feel that we went into the workforce, or at least I went into the workforce, or not necessarily the workforce, but in life with such great expectations because I'm a really bookish person, right? And I read so much, and the stories are always about these main character types. So the
Mm-hmm.
chosen ones, the people
yeah.
around whom everything revolves. They're
Your
changing the
protagonist.
world. They're doing
Yeah.
things. Yes,
Yeah.
and it's just for a long time I felt that I wasn't enough, and it wasn't enough because I wasn't actively changing the world. And it
Mm-hmm.
took me a few years to realize that you don't have to change the world, you have to change what's around you.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you are appreciated by those who are around you, and they care and you care about them, then that means you've made it, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily that you changed the whole wide world.
No,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's exactly right. Is that it's really important to be as kind as you can be to
Mm-hmm.
as many people as you
A
can.
hundred
And
percent.
the kind of job you do, like it's great if you're able to work in a place that directly impacts the well-being of people in the world around you, Miriam, like you do, and like I know Naomi does as well. That's amazing, man. But like if you don't, then you're I think the best thing you can do is try to live the kind of try to have the kind of job that enables you to live the
Mm-hmm.
kind of life where you can be kind to
Yes,
like that's as long as your life is enabled to have kindness in it, then I think that's
100%.
That's a fantastic sentiment.
Regarding what Naomi said, don't feel bad. That's who we talk to with every day. Believe me, no, we don't expect the person on the other end of the line to know what we do. And someone that is a good IT person should know not to be condescending to you and to know how to explain things.
yeah.
And I'm sure that the person on the other end of the line couldn't do what you do
Also,
without
don't take their
their
shit, man. Like
explanation.
if IT is giving you
Exactly.
shit, don't take their shit. Just like
Exactly. Exactly.
I usually get along with my IT people. I think partially because like it's not if they're giving you shit, it's not coming from a place of malice. Like they're literally just teasing you. Uh,
Listen,
That's
I
true.
think
Oh my god, that's so true.
listen,
just
as an IT person, it's easier to work with someone that recognizes that they don't have the necessary knowledge.
yeah.
The worst ones are the people that know just a little and they think that is a lot and they are not willing to let you be the authority in that, in that context, and they contradict you and they question every single thing that you do. And it's, I don't mind being questioned, but like, let me do my job, dude.
No kidding. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my god. This is okay. We'll get it about the world will be fine, Dreamer. You're right. The
Exactly.
world will be fine.
Terima, we're at the stage where huge scientific like breakthroughs, discoveries have mostly been made, like, and the chances of making a huge breakthrough are extremely tiny because so many people are doing research. But you are just, you're making small steps together with other research to further the ultimate goal. So
Mhm.
yes, I will also not win a Nobel Prize or further my research very significantly, but I have contributed with my small, my small part of the research to further everyone else's well-being, and
Exactly.
ultimately we all contribute to that, but it's smaller contributions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And those are not any less important.
And yes, exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
Just because you don't get a medal for being nice to people doesn't mean it's not you should stop being nice to people.
Yes,
Hmm.
and I just wanted to go back to another comment that Terima had about that in their culture, academics and career success is viewed as imperative for life security. My mother raised me to be hyper ambitious, and sometimes I have severe burnout. I can completely relate to that. My mother was also overly ambitious, and that also comes a little bit with age and like figuring out what your priorities in life are. But let me tell you, a nature paper won't keep you warm when you're 60. It's your family that will keep you warm, so you have to balance your life in such a way that you don't allow academics and your career to be your primary goal in life, because like success, happiness, feeling satisfied with your life, feeling validated with who you are doesn't come only from your career. It comes from multiple sources, and your career is only one of those sources.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, 100%. The career, I feel, unless you intentionally want it to be the main focus of your life and you are wired in such a way that uh, your career is like 90% of what you want to do all of the time. Like my boyfriend is with programming and coding, it's his hobby and his career. I feel that the career should facilitate all of the beautiful, wonderful things that you would want to occupy your time with
Totally.
outside of it. Like you said, I just want to enjoy learning and enjoying reading and writing and relax and not think about the big picture all the time. Your career should help you facilitate that, but you should also learn for yourself to set the boundaries so your career doesn't bleed outside working hours too much and
Mhm.
encroach over all of those beautiful things that make life worth living aside from a career, and that may also make you a better worker at your career. Because if you
Hmm.
get burned out from focusing on your career all of the time, then the best decision to do for both your career and your personal health is to focus more on the things that make you happy so you can go back to work feeling happy, refreshed, clear headed, and all of those wonderful hobbies that make you happy then translate into being a more productive worker. Very cutthroat capitalist sentence I just said, but it's true.
No, it is. I completely agree. I mean, it's and I think it's different when you're in your 20s because your career it's a new avenue for you to be successful in. It's a new avenue for you to show your competence and show your
Mm-hmm.
intelligence and show all of these things uh, that you maybe didn't have before. So your 20s is about figuring out where your lines are.
A
It's about
hundred
figuring
percent.
out like what's important to you. Is your career that thing that's going to take up 90% of your brain space in your heart? And if it is, that's fine, dude. Like that's
That's
fine.
yes,
And that's who I
absolutely.
was in my 20s. And I honestly kind of still am today. Like I put a lot of stock in my professional success. And I I only recently learned to not be super apologetic about it. And because what man do you know who apologizes for being a workaholic? Like I can't think of any, frankly. And like we've chosen not to have kids, and we so my time is where I spend my time, and my
Yeah.
my brain is where I spend my brain, and like, but in my 20s, it was figuring out what those lines were, and
Mm-hmm.
now even though professional success is a large chunk of that self-esteem pie for me, um, because that's a choice that I have made. That's the choice I have made
Mm-hmm.
after figuring out what I want going through my 20s. And I think that's where a lot of you guys are going to be as well. And Trima, I have no doubt that you will go through that process also.
Definitely.
Um, oh God, I think I'm going to confess I can't relate because I'm not overly ambitious.
It's fine, dude.
And it took me a while to not feel bad for not being ambitious because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of
So
people just
funny that both
didn't
of us
get
had like
it.
the exact opposite thing.
And
Both
I am in the
managed to
middle.
feel like terrible about it. Like I
Y-
felt bad for being too ambitious. You felt bad for not being ambitious. Like,
Exactly. Like
and
my
we
goal,
can't win, dude.
like my goal, I realized that my goal is basically to have a job that's sort of in the middle where I'm happy with it, but it doesn't need to be like a top tier position job that makes me like, I don't know, top dog in the company. I just want something that makes me happy and that I'm good at and lets me, have time for my other life outside of work, and
Mm-hmm.
that also helps me, um you know give me flexibility to be good at my job and learn more stuff and just be happy and specialize in that thing. It's just sometimes I feel that there's a pressure to be ambitious to prove yourself. At least for me, it was very ego based, where
Yeah,
I felt bad for not being ambitious
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because my ego wanted me to be perceived and seen, and being ambitious is one of the ways to be seen,
sure.
until I realized that that is not the root of my happiness. The root of my happiness is being part of a collective and helping people and being needed, and I don't necessarily need to be top
And
manager,
that's
CEO, top dog to get that.
Same.
and honestly, guys, like that's what I mean. Like your 20s is for figuring that shit out. Like your
Mm-hmm.
20s is to figure out what builds your self-esteem pie and where
Mhm.
do those things come from.
And if you're a late bloomer like me, maybe your early 30s.
Yeah. Or
Never
you
too late.
no, it never is too late.
No,
But
but I
it
think the important part is to keep questioning yourself what makes me happy,
Mhm.
what
yes,
motivates me in life. And
totally.
if you figure out that it's your job that makes you the happiest, definitely go for it. And of course, that still doesn't mean that you should exclude your like social life, your friends, your
Mhm.
family, your hobbies. They're so important. Your hobbies are part of who you are, but it's definitely really important to be introspective and to constantly question yourself, am I just going through the motions, or am I really doing what
Yeah.
I want to be doing in life? And if you're
Exactly.
not, take steps to change that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And couldn't agree more that that kind of self-reflection is so important because you know what?
Hmm.
It might evolve. It probably will evolve. It should evolve.
Mhm.
As
Hmm.
you change and grow as a person, the
And
things
be
that were
unapologetic about it,
yes,
like you
the,
said.
the things that were important to you 2 years ago might not be as important today. And
Hmm.
you won't know that unless you take stock of the inventory of your emotions.
Yeah.
But
I think it's a process that comes with time. Regarding what Tarima said about rewiring, I think it's a process that comes with time and introspection and maybe some workplace suffering.
yeah,
Because
Life experience.
if I hadn't gone through so many shitty bosses and some shitty jobs, maybe I wouldn't have realized what I wanted. And I think it's the same for my tray, but on the other on side of the fence.
Well, thanks. Because for me, it's less of the shitty bosses, but it's also like I never want to be that boss. Like I
100%.
never want to be like, I know I've had enough shitty bosses to be like, no.
Yeah,
I know better, and I know how to do better, and I'm
exactly.
going to
Yeah.
do better. And yeah. But I think I need to start rapping. I'm really sorry, but I need to start wrapping up our conversation
Yeah,
now.
we did take
No,
quite
it's
a
been
while.
fantastic. Yeah,
And we
yeah.
still haven't addressed all of the
I
comments because we
know.
stuck.
I
I'm
know.
so sorry to
No, don't be
everyone
sorry.
whose comments I missed, but
And
we got talking.
I don't know if I'm going to not apologize, but I'm going to thank you all for this
Exactly.
wonderful discourse and
Perfect.
insightful comments that I fully expected would happen. So
Yeah.
And
Thanks to
thank
everyone who made
you
the
all for
time,
being here,
you guys.
for leaving all of your
contributing your
wonderful comments.
experience.
Yes, your life experience and the life simply wouldn't be the same without everyone chatting in the comments and providing this different life experience which makes
Sure.
everything more complex and rich.
Thank you all for being so open with your
Yes.
experiences,
Yeah.
because not everybody is comfortable doing that, and I think we're very grateful that you were able to
100%.
a lot of you were willing to do that with us today.
Mhm.
Thanks everyone, and thanks to my
Thank
ladies
you.
here.
You
I'm in
guys,
the presence of awesomeness here.
I
Thank you.
I
can we
admire
do
you
this?
guys so much.
Can we do this again, please, please,
Yes,
please?
yes. Whenever you
Anytime.
guys want, I'm down for it.
I can
Okay.
listen to you guys talk anytime, any
I
day.
was
You
gonna
just
say
name
the same
it.
about you guys. I'm like,
Same.
can I just like?
Try it. Simp, try it.
That's amazing, amazing, amazing. All right. Well, this was delightful, and thank you
Thank
guys, and thank
you.
you everybody in the chat, and yeah.
And
Well,
Isabel, life coaching.
yes, yes. All right. Cool. Well, I think
Okay,
we're gonna
cool.
wrap up. Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
Yeah,
you.
let's hang again soon.
Okay.
Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, bye, bye.